I never believed time travel would actually work. The machine was only supposed to send me 10 years into the future. Just a quick experiment, go forward, record what I see, and return. The destination was the year 2035. But when the machine finally stopped, something felt wrong. The air was too quiet. No traffic, no voices, no movement. I stepped outside and looked around the city. And that's when I realized something terrifying. There was no one there. The streets were completely empty. Cars were parked everywhere. Some even stopped in the middle of the road. Their doors were open, as if the drivers had suddenly left in a hurry. I walked down the street calling out, "Hello, is anyone here?" But no one answered. Not a single sound came back. The only thing moving was the wind, pushing old newspapers across the pavement. Every building was dark, every window empty. It felt like the entire city had been abandoned. I decided to check the airport. If something had happened, maybe people tried to escape. When I arrived, the automatic doors opened slowly. Inside, the airport was silent. The lights flickered above the empty hall. The departure boards were still working, but every single flight said the same word: canceled. Suitcases were scattered across the floor. Clothes, bags, even a small child's teddy bear near one of the gates. It looked like thousands of people had been there. And then suddenly, they were gone. I checked the security room. The cameras were still recording. The last footage was dated March 17th, 2035. People were running through the terminal. Some were screaming. Others were staring outside the windows. Then suddenly, something strange happened. People started disappearing, not falling, not dying. They simply vanished. 1 second they were there. The next second, they were gone. The screen turned to static. I left the airport and went to the largest shopping mall in the city. Inside, the escalators were still running. Stores were wide open. Clothes covered the floor like someone had rushed out in panic. Food trays were still sitting on the tables in the food court. But the food had completely rotted away. It looked like everything had been left exactly where it was, years ago. Then I heard something, a loud metallic sound from the second floor. I quickly looked up, but there was nothing there. No footsteps, no shadows, just silence again. Inside an electronics store, something strange happened. All the televisions suddenly turned on at the same time. A news broadcast appeared on every screen. The reporter looked terrified. He said the world had entered a global war. Nuclear strikes were happening across major cities. Governments had collapsed. But then he said something even worse. He said the war wasn't the real problem. Something else had appeared after the explosions. Behind him, people in the newsroom suddenly started disappearing. One by one, vanishing into thin air. The reporter turned around in horror, and then he disappeared too. The broadcast ended. I went outside again and followed the highway out of the city. Thousands of cars filled the road. People must have tried to escape, but none of them made it far. Car doors were open, phones were still inside. Some radios were still playing emergency alerts. One voice repeated the same warning over and over. Stay indoors, do not look at the sky. Repeat, do not, and then the signal stopped. That's when I looked up. The sky above the city had a strange red glow. The clouds looked darker than normal, and the entire world felt wrong. No birds, no planes, no wind, just silence. Then I heard something behind me. Footsteps, slow, heavy. I turned around quickly, but there was no one there. I ran back to the time machine as fast as I could. I tried to start it again, but the power was gone. The machine was dead. There was no way back to my time. Then I noticed something in the distance, a shadow moving across the empty street. Something was there, watching me. I still don't know what happened to humanity in 2035. But I know one thing. The war didn't destroy the world. Something else came after. Something that takes people. And I think it finally found me. If anyone in the past is hearing this message, do not come to the year 2035, because this world is not empty. The year was 2026. The war didn't begin with bombs. It began with silence. For months, countries threatened each other. Missiles were prepared. Armies were moved to borders. Everyone expected explosions. But when the war finally started, something far worse happened. At 3:11 a.m., satellites detected thousands of objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Governments assumed it was an attack. Missiles were launched to intercept them. But the objects didn't explode, they didn't crash. They simply vanished in the sky. The next morning, the world felt different. At first, no one noticed, until the disappearances began. A bus driver in Germany vanished while driving. The bus continued moving until it crashed into a building. Passengers inside said something terrifying. Passengers inside said something terrifying. They said the driver suddenly stopped talking, then slowly looked behind him, like someone was standing there, but there was no one. Then he screamed, and he was pulled backward into the air, right through the driver's seat, as if invisible hands had dragged him away. Within days, the same reports came from everywhere. People walking down the street, suddenly stopping, looking at something no one else could see, and then disappearing. Entire houses were found empty. Dinner still on the table, TVs still playing, but every person inside was gone. Governments called it panic mass hysteria, but soldiers soon discovered the truth. One military squad was sent to investigate a completely abandoned city. The soldiers wore body cameras. At first, everything looked normal. Cars were parked on the streets. Shops were open, but there was no sound. No birds, no wind, no people, just silence. One soldier whispered, "Why does it feel like something is watching us?" Another soldier laughed nervously. Then suddenly, the radios started making a strange noise. Not static, breathing, deep, slow, breathing, like something enormous, standing right beside them. The squad leader turned around. Nothing was there, but the breathing kept getting louder. Then one soldier looked down. His voice shook as he said, "Sir, there are footprints." Everyone looked at the ground. Fresh footprints were appearing in the dust. One step, then another, but no one was making them. Something invisible was walking toward them. The soldiers raised their guns. The footsteps stopped, just a few feet away. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, one soldier was lifted into the air. His body twisted violently, bones cracking. His screams echoed through the empty streets. And then he was dragged across the ground, straight into the darkness between two buildings. The squad opened fire. Bullets tore through the air, but they hit nothing. More soldiers started disappearing one by one, pulled screaming into empty space. The last surviving soldier was running through the streets, his camera shaking violently behind him. The sound of heavy footsteps, multiple footsteps chasing him. He hid inside an abandoned building, locked the door. His breathing was frantic. Then he heard something that made his blood freeze. A voice right outside the door. A familiar voice. It was the voice of the first soldier who had died, but distorted, broken, like something was trying to imitate him. The voice whispered, "Open the door. We need help." The soldier covered his mouth to stop himself from breathing loudly, but the voice kept talking. "Please, we can't see it." "Open the door." Then the voice changed. It became deeper, inhuman, and it said something that no one was supposed to hear. "We can see you." The door handle slowly began to turn. The soldier started screaming. The camera fell to the floor, and the last thing recorded was the sound of something massive entering the room. After that footage leaked online, the internet was shut down, but it was already too late, because people everywhere began hearing the same things. Footsteps outside their homes, breathing in empty rooms, and voices in the dark, calling their names. By the end of 2026, half of humanity had vanished. Cities became silent graveyards. Airports filled with abandoned planes. Highways full of empty cars. But the worst part wasn't the disappearances. It was what survivors started discovering. The creatures hunting humans were learning human voices, learning human behavior, learning how to lure people outside. Some survivors reported hearing their own voices, calling to them from outside their houses. One final recording was found months later. It came from a man hiding inside a hospital basement. His voice was shaking. "They're getting smarter. They don't just hunt anymore. They wait." Suddenly he stopped talking. In the background, footsteps echoed down the hallway, slow, heavy, getting closer. The man whispered, "No, no, no." Then something knocked on the basement door. 3 slow knocks. Then a voice spoke. A voice that sounded exactly like the man himself. It whispered softly, "You can't hide from yourself." The man began screaming. The recording ended. Today, satellites still orbit Earth. They still send back images, but the planet looks empty. Cities silent, lights gone. Humanity almost extinct. But sometimes, security cameras still activate at night. And when researchers examine the footage, they see something horrifying. Footprints appearing in the snow, doors slowly opening by themselves, and shadows moving, even though nothing is there. Which means one thing: the war of 2026 was never a war between countries. It was a war between humans, and something that arrived from the sky, something we still cannot see, something that is still here, still breathing, still listening, and still hunting.